My name's Rob North. I'm a local resident and I was a local firefighter. I was in the fire brigade for 30 years. I retired 7 months after the Grenfell tragedy. And yeah, lifelong resident. So yeah, we're 6 years on now and it literally feels like only yesterday to me. It never goes away. But on these anniversaries, it's particularly emotional for everybody, reminds us even more about what happened and what is continuing to happen. So I guess for me I feel totally let down by a couple of organisations really. One being the London Fire Brigade. I reached out to the London Fire Brigade. As I say, I had 7 months to go following a 30-year career, and I reached out to the then chief officer that was around the fire station and many other senior officers, and been totally let down by the fire brigade. They've not been anywhere near, and they said they would be there for me and they haven't. And another one is obviously RBKC. I feel so let down by them, and it's all these big organisations that say they care. There is no care. Trust me, there is no care from any of these two. This has been my experience, and it's been really difficult, It's been really tough, it's affected me badly. The doctor wanted to put me on antidepressants. I was sceptical to go on them. So I've been self-medicating by drinking a lot of alcohol, which I'm glad to say now, just only in the last few weeks I've really slowed down on that. I know it's not right, but it definitely helped me, And obviously as a fire brigade we had a presence there for a long time, and I visited the tower on many occasions. And the sights were awful, absolutely awful, dreadful. I'm not even going to say on camera what I see. But it's just had a negative effect on me, And as I say, I've been let down by the fire brigade when I reached out to them. We did a pre-retirement course and I went to the headquarters. And I wasn't hungry at lunchtime, so I made my way up to the chief officer's office. She wasn't there. It was like I was a Martian landing from the moon, and her PA said to me, "Hello, who are you?" She got really right. So I went, "Oh, hi, I'm Rob." She said, "What are you doing here?" So I said, "I'm here for back Grenfell. I want to speak to the chief." Obviously, being a lifelong resident, I was born in Goulburn Road, and I'm a local firefighter. There was a lot I could have done, but they totally ignored me. So what I did in that office is I wrote down my name, address, phone number, email, and asked for the chief officer to get in touch with me. That never happened. And as I say, there was a lot I could have done. I faced a lot of negativity from my community because obviously, people see it in the way they see it, and I've been called a murderer. I've almost got into lots and lots of fights, and this is when I was still serving. And no one listened to me. No one helped me at all. So I feel totally let down by the fire brigade. And just also with the council as well, It's I live right opposite Grenfell in Bramley Road there, and for weeks and weeks and weeks, the debris, the dust, the hot weather like this, everyone's windows are open, we was dusting, and for weeks and weeks and weeks, we're getting that in our flat.
Tell me about the early days after the fire.
Yeah, so there was press everywhere, people were coming, and people were coming from afar, and it was almost like it was Notting Hill Carnival.
Yeah.
And people were taking photos of it, and I wasn't comfortable with that, I can remember we were so sick of walking that way and getting cameras shoved in our faces, asking me if I'm a resident. They'd just seen me walk out my front door, And I don't think the fire brigade would like me to spoke at that time. I think we was silenced, although I wasn't strong enough and ready to talk about it, So we decided to walk that way towards Shepherd's Bush one day, and we'd just gone to the co-op, got a few bits and pieces, and there was a guy came round and he asked me where the tower was. I asked him why he wanted to go there, and he said, "Oh, I want to get some nice pictures of it, Now to me that was still a morgue, and there was enough pictures out there for anyone to see in the papers and everywhere else. So I said, "Okay, well if you need to, then you can go straight down here," and I directed him 2 different ways, And then as we turned around, he then screamed out, oh, he didn't scream out, I got literally about 4 paces away from him, and he said, "I blame the fire brigade. The fire brigade killed all these people." And I just I just switched and I lost it. You know, I threw the bags down and I got in a fist punch and I went to punch him. You know, and then Anne sort of grabbed me and stopped me, and luckily he walked off in that direction. You know, that's just one story. You know, someone screamed in my face and called me a murderer, which has been hard to live with. You know.
Why is that though? I mean,
I guess
it's not. You know, you guys did. You did. You know, the best that you could in a situation that nobody was prepared for.
Exactly.
Do you see what
exactly.
I mean?
Nobody
was prepared for that.
There's 5 tower blocks around. They're identical. You know, so I've had to ask myself over time. You know, the political question of why was Grenfell cladded in the first place. Now, to me, because all the other 4 tower blocks was under threat, by the way, prior to Grenfell happening. I think since Grenfell they've all had a reprieve. I was going to the meetings in Maxilla because we knew
regeneration. You mean?
Yeah, we knew lots of shareholders that were worried about their tower blocks coming down, where they're going to go. You know, they're going to get the right market value, where they're going to buy elsewhere in the borough. They're not going to be able to buy in the borough, you know, in a new property. So I was going in support to keep those tower blocks up, which are still up now. Yeah. But why did they, in my opinion, I don't know if I'm correct or what, but they cladded Grenfell because of Westfields, because of the new leisure centre, the new school, and the proximity to where it is, so close to the station and all these other buildings, it was too difficult to bring that one down. So we'll get rid of all the other ones, but we'll decorate.
We'll make it look pretty.
We'll decorate Grenfell. If you're on the train there on Latimer, you can nearly touch Grenfell, do you know? Yeah. So that's why I think it was cladded. Now, if you asked every one of those residents in Grenfell, to which I've known for years, we've got £10 million here, where do you think we should best spend it? I guarantee you not one of them would have said decorate the outside because we think it looks bad, you know? I can remember meeting, you know, families on this when I was doing home fire safety visits. Met a lovely Asian family that gave us these fresh samosas out of the oven, showing us emails that they sent to the council saying how unsafe they thought the building was, thinking that we had some power as the fire brigade to help them with their cause. And the last letter they showed me, it was mum, dad, and I think 3 young children. The last letter they showed us was from the council saying, should you continue, action may be taken against you. Now that's a threat. It sounds threatening anyway. But they're all dead. All that family of 5 are dead.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Rob.
So, it shouldn't have been cladded. You know, it was a fire that the fire brigade couldn't put out as well. You know, people saying about turntable ladders and this, that, and the other. You know, helicopters and all these sorts of things. You know, that roof's been designed to dispel water, and so is the outside of the building. The fire developed behind the cladding. It was acting like a chimney once it reached its optimum temperature.
In between the cladding,
Which was also shoddily put up. There was gaffer tape put in sections, you know. Grey gaffer tape so as it blended in and people wouldn't see it, you know. But it was a very difficult fire to fight there. The firefighters in there that night had a terrible job to fight that fire, and they didn't know what they was going into because they can't see on the outside what's happening, you know. So they was all coming unstuck, you know. But obviously, we're always going to do our best, but it pretty much burnt itself out, that fire.
It took a long time for that to happen.
A long time. I was on the streets with my wife. I wasn't on duty that night. I went there many times afterwards.
I remember you and I met in the first few days.
We did, yeah.
That's how we met.
I can remember the helicopter coming round, you know, and the screams getting louder and louder, thinking it's like the movie, it's going to come and rescue him. And then the screams just go silent, which tells you exactly what happened. You know, they was perished there, you know. We witnessed, me and my wife, seeing people leap from the buildings, you know. It was awful. You know, I was woken up that morning, I think about 10 to 1, something like that. Can't remember exactly. And it was my wife screaming. I thought someone was in my flat or one of my kids had been murdered or something. I've never heard my wife scream like that ever in my life, you know. I've been married 41 years this year. And her screams, I will never get over her screams, let alone the people over these screams, you know. So, I guess people sort of blame the fire brigade because I taught fire safety to young people for 2 years in the fire brigade, you know, and it was get out, get the fire brigade out and stay out. So for people to hear stay put policy in that situation, which did fail, the stay put policy is absolutely the correct thing to do unless it's wrapped in a flammable material. Now the stay put policy, how many tower block fires do you think I've had in 30 years? Loads. Trellick Towers only weeks before and after.
There was one in Shepherd's Bush as well.
Shepherd's Bush, yeah, I wasn't on that one, but also was it Adair Tower?
A local.
Or Hazelwood Tower, local up Goldman, you know, and they're concrete buildings, you know. It's not going to travel from flat to flat like that. They're compartmentalised, you know. They're
So
concrete.
if a fire happens, it's contained within whatever floor the fire happens.
Most definitely.
So
And the reason
the
stay-put policy is in place is so you don't get that mass evacuation, you know, which would cause problems. But the stay-put policy failed. It failed miserably on that night. You know, your only chance of survival was to get out. Ultimately, that decision was made. In my own personal opinion, I think it was too late. It should have been made a lot sooner. Now, that's coming from me as a fireman for like almost 30 years at the time, so quite experienced. Had loads and loads of tower block fires. They're hard to fight, however, that doesn't happen. That was unprecedented.
Yeah.
And the reason that happened was because they wrapped it in a flammable material. Pure and simple, you know.
Can I ask you a question, Rob? How do you feel when, you know, when knowing you did everything that you could within your, you know, within your capability, but people still speak to you that way? How does it make you feel?
It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts because I joined the fire brigade, you know, because it's an amazing job, you know, to be able to help a person in a time of need gives great job satisfaction. And I can remember I felt so much guilt over it all, you know, lots of survivors' guilt, and really, really upset. And, you know, Anne said to me, but look at the amount of lives you have saved over the years, Rob, you know, but you don't focus on that. You only focus on what's happening here and now. And it's always going to be hard to take. It's always going to be hard to take that, because I did it to the best of my abilities and I love my job, and I was as keen as when I joined to when I left, really, you know. Some of the guys used to say, we love coming out with you, Northie, because I said, why is that? It's like doing an apprentice, you know. But you can only keep what you've got by giving it away, you know. So in that kind of job, you know, you go to training school, you learn how to use the equipment. That's it. You're not a fully qualified firefighter until after time, you know. When I joined, it was a 6-monthly exam, a yearly exam, and then only after 4 years you was qualified. And you can't beat practical experience, you know. You can learn it from a book or in a training centre, but it doesn't beat being on the ground, you know, and doing that job, so which I dearly loved, you know. But I've actually questioned myself, you know, did I choose the right career?
After 30 years, wow.
Yeah, did I choose the right career?
Because of what happened with Grenfell.
Definitely,
I'm
yeah.
sorry to hear that.
Definitely. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
and if I was to know then, on the 4th of January 1988 when I joined, and I knew I'd be involved in this, I wouldn't have joined.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's how much it's had an effect on me. You know, I wouldn't have joined.
So in terms of support, has there been no support for you none at all?
I reached out, as I say, I reached out, you know, I went out of my way. Don't tell me that senior officers didn't get in the chief officer's office, they didn't get what I wrote down from the PA, you know, or the emails that I'd sent to them, you know. Yeah. I did, however, when I've been interviewed with the fire brigade shortly after Grenfell, you know, with some senior officers, and there was a lovely lady there, Catherine, who works, I think a professor, works at the mental health and wellbeing at St Charles, and I was being interviewed by the police and also the fire brigade. And prior to the interview, she said, I'd like everyone to leave and I'd like to have a chat with Rob. She's the only person I trusted that day, fully trusted.
I know Kathy, she's a good person.
She is a good person. I need to get back to her because I went to see her, I trusted in her, and then I went to have some counselling sessions with her, I think only 2 times. And instantly then, my drinking slowed down. I started to feel a little bit normal, just normal, without having all this anxiety and depression all the time, you know. And then COVID hit, and I've struggled to get out of bed most days. You know, I lie in bed, I can get 10, 12 hours sleep, and I'm absolutely shattered still, and I can't get out of bed. I duvet dive. And I had an appointment with Catherine, and I didn't make it because I just couldn't get out of bed. And then I felt guilty for not being in touch with her. But I know I really should probably go back and meet with that girl, because she was very, very good.
She's around today.
Is she?
Yeah, she's around today.
Well, God, hopefully, God willing, I might bump into her. You know, that would be nice. So yeah, that was the support I got. You know, that was the only support I got from anyone.
I'm sorry to hear that, Rob.
I mean, I've done lots of volunteer youth work around here, you know, with the rugby club, the Harrow club, you know, on small different occasions, taking young kids away, Michael Defoe, to Brecon years and years ago. So everyone knows me around here. You know, I've been a lifelong member.
You did stuff with us in the early days. Remember the, what was his name, Daniel? he walked from, I think it was somewhere up north, do you remember?
Yeah, I think it
And
was
then
the
you guys-
Midlands.
yeah, you guys turned up at
The
Clement
church.
James
That's right,
to
yeah.
greet him.
Yeah,
do you
yeah, I
that?
remember, yeah.
That was 6 years ago.
I know, man.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Where the years going by,
Yeah.
they're flying by.
And I'm really sorry to hear that, you know, you're not getting the support that you need. And it's important that people speak out, because there's a lot of people going through what you're going through in the local area.
Right.
And we keep telling, you know, those that have the power to help the community, that this is what the community needs. But it seems like you speak to them, but they don't listen. And it, as is always the case in North Kensington, people come into the area and think they know what's best for the community. When in actual fact, we know what we need, and we've been doing it not just for the last 6 years, but for decades. You know,
Yeah.
as a community, you said something really important earlier about how tight our community is. On days like this, or whenever, you know, whenever we see each other on the streets, we support each other.
1,000,000%.
But we need the resources in the local area to be able to, you know, to help those that need proper professional support. But yeah, we'll I don't know, I guess we'll keep banging on those doors. And if there's anything, you know, I can do to help, or, you know, point you in the right direction, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Faz. That's really appreciated, you know, and it's taken probably 6 years now for me to feel strong enough to actually talk on camera, if I'm being honest. I was sent letters, you know, to go up to for the inquiry, you know, and someone came around my house and said, you know, quite threatening, said they'd subpoena me to actually attend, and I wasn't strong enough mentally. I'll be honest with you, I just wasn't strong enough mentally to do that. That's been and gone now, you know, and I guess they probably wanted to know about all the families that I met 3 days prior to the fire. They call it HFSV, Home Fire Safety Visit, you know. That was rushed, and we didn't give a great service on that day.
Really?
Really, and we did a service, don't get me wrong, and for us as firefighters, you know...
was that just to sign the building off, or was it something
No,
that,
no, I'll tell you what Home Fire Safety Visit is. We'll go into a home and we'll look around, we'll look for any kind of dangers, overloading electrics, all kinds of things, you know, speak about their means of escape, to which was bad over there, and also what to do if they're trapped by fire. You know, I remember speaking to a lovely family, you know, and you know, tell them to, you know, block off the doors if smoke comes through, shout through the windows, you know, if your exit is blocked, and all these kinds of things, you know. But that is great in most situations, but not that
in normal
situation.
situations?
But what I want to say to you now as well is, like, the fire brigade need to change this, because what we did what they call on the run. When you're on the run, that means you're available for emergency calls. So we had fire engines around there, and we had an emergency call, went away, and then came back. So it needs to be a dedicated team, to which I think they've got a few, but it needs to be a dedicated team. Firefighters on fire engines shouldn't be doing this because of that reason. So it does seem like a tick box to me as well, you know. So they was kind of rushed as well, in my opinion. If I had enough time, it would be better, in my opinion, you know. So firefighters on the run shouldn't be doing it. They should be taken off the run to do it thoroughly.
Yeah, to do the dedicated job.
Or have a dedicated team that are not riding fire engines, you know. Just because these firefighters, you know, are not, you know, having calls like 20, 30 a day, it's a physical life insurance policy. If and when needed, it needs to be able to respond, and respond as quick as it possibly can. So for me, fire safety should be done from fire safety, separate department, that are not firefighters on the run, which means, you know, they're available for emergency calls, you know. So I do feel really strongly about that, you know.
Okay. Well, look, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of, you know, tell us your story, man. I'm sorry it's been quite a tough 6 years for you. Hopefully, things will change.